And one of the claims we heard earlier was that cameras and equipment would stop working. At the moment, Nick's camera isn't even recording at all.
Just got a weird pain in my shoulder right here. Feels like somebody just like took their finger and started pushing down on it. Right when I walked through the door, it was just like bam.
Many people have heard the sound of a great crash, as if china cabinets were being thrown to the floor.
Alabama is full of ghost stories.
There's just not too many places you can go in our state without hearing tales of the strange, the paranormal, and the macabre.
But are these stories true?
Our crew will travel to these reportedly haunted locations to learn their history and investigate their claims.
Our goal is to determine if there is any truth to the ghost stories that haunt our state.
Back in November of 2012, we gathered around a late-night bonfire. While sitting there, we started to tell a few ghost stories, slowly bringing up our real experiences during our investigations when we were called SOPI, short for the Society of Paranormal Investigations. We talked about everything from our investigations at Sloss.
Dude, there's lots on it. We're going down into the tunnel.
This sounds like a big
It's lit up.
To our usual haunt, the abandoned town of Old Dora. We even touched on my 15 minutes of fame on the Travel Channel's Ghost Adventures. I was definitely rocking the John Lennon look back then. Our friend Nick was with us that night, discussing his job at the time with a local television studio in Summerton. He brought up the idea of starting a series documenting haunted places and filling a time slot at the station with our adventures. As I started the flames flickering in the campfire, I imagined us, traveling near and far, staying the night in some of the most haunted places we could find. The next day, the concept and name for our series was born. All we needed were some locations. It didn't take long before massive amounts of emails and phone calls were being made. Locations were lined up here in Alabama, all the way to Georgia and Kentucky. We knew it wouldn't be long before our series, at the time entitled The Paranormal Project, would be lighting up TV screens in our hometown. We settled on our first location, set to film the first episode of our series on January 13th, 2013, at Tuscaloosa's reportedly haunted Jemison Van de Graaff mansion. After setting up our official date, we eagerly counted down the days until we would be hitting the road, starting a journey that none of us would ever forget, some more than others.
What? Give me all your money. Give me your money.
I don't believe in money.
You just...
Back before I realized that the best way to not forever look 12 years old was to grow a beard, I was soon realizing in the car ride to the mansion that I had no idea what I was doing, and I was hopelessly hoping for the best. So we tried a test interview or two.
Hey Kevin, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. Can't complain.
You happy about this?
Yeah. Well, hello, friend.
Hello.
How's it going?
Quite well, thank you.
Well, that's a very fine, good thing. I'm glad you're having a good day. Are you ready to join us on our investigation tonight?
Yes.
That is quite
Can
well.
you tell me where we're going?
Well, tonight we're going to the Jemison mansion.
And
We're gonna hunt for some spooks.
what kind of spooks?
Well, mostly your invisible kind, maybe your see-through kind, and sometimes the kind that like to throw things at you. Yeah, there you go. That man knows.
So, Kevin?
After successfully crushing my first official interview, we continued to make our way to Tuscaloosa, taking in some of the sights along the way.
You see it?
That was red.
I
Let's
see
go.
it.
It was red.
Excellent.
I see the sign.
She sees the sun. Okay, that was not the right turn, apparently.
Wait,
See the
where's the
sign
sun?
over there?
Okay, well, never mind.
The
Now
blue
it's
sign
there
over
it is.
there.
now it's pointing. Yeah,
I just screwed that thing.
it's doing this.
Algalba.
The road is going all squiggly. Jalbalba, squiggly balba.
Algalba, squiggly road, jalba.
Look at that guy. Look how he's like steering off like, I don't know, he's just like, ah, my life.
Yeah.
He's contemplating
Stare at
everything.
the sun and think about what I've done.
He's wondering what this killer buzz arena is.
Why are my pupils?
I'm also
Right,
curious
right there,
as to what this killer buzz arena is.
Buzzarino.
The moment we pulled up to the mansion, all of us stared up at it in awe. Sure, we had investigated several haunted locations before, but something felt different about this one. Maybe it was the fact that this was one of the first big locations we'd actually received permission to investigate, or the thought that if we broke something in this mansion, it would probably cost more than our first cars combined. Still, there was something special here. We met up with the mansion director, Ian Crawford, as he gave us a full tour of the house, telling us the history, as well as the haunted history, with the most famous story being the sounds of a china cabinet crashing to the floor below. He also took us to the Greenwood Cemetery, where people claim the spirit of a little girl still visits her grave. Before I go any farther, I should explain. We had just wrapped up filming our second episode at the Kenworthy Carlisle Hall in Marion, Alabama, when we found out that the owner of the studio we were working with didn't feel as though our show would fit in with his normal programming. This meant that anything and everything filmed or recorded with the studio's equipment could not be used, and our tapes with full interviews and the majority of each investigation were permanently shelved, killing the Paranormal Project before it ever got off the ground. While this was a major blow to us, we had still used a good bit of our own personal equipment on each investigation, so everything you were about to see filmed at both the Jemison Van de Graaff Mansion and Kenworthy Hall was all that we were able to save from our previous dream. A dream that would one day become Alabama's most haunted.
Coming up.
And one of the claims we heard earlier was that cameras and equipment would stop working. At the moment, Nick's camera isn't even recording at all.
Just got a weird pain in my shoulder right here. Feels like somebody just like took their finger and started pushing down on it.
We had just arrived at the Jemison Van de Graaff mansion. Ian walked us through the mansion, telling us the history of the home. The mansion was built in 1862 by Senator Robert Jemison Jr. The mansion construction was never completed before the Civil War broke out. Robert Jemison Jr. served as both a state senator for Alabama and a Confederate senator during the Civil War, After the war, with his personal fortune lost, Jemison continued working for the state, devoting much of his time to rebuilding the University of Alabama, most of which was destroyed in the war. After Robert and his wife passed away, the mansion was passed down to his daughter Cherokee. Cherokee had married a young lawyer from Tuscaloosa, Andrew Hargrove. Hargrove had just begun his practice in Tuscaloosa when the war broke out. Hargrove was quick to join the service and stayed in the war until the last shot was fired. During his time in the Civil War, Colonel Hargrove sustained several injuries to his head, the worst one being a bullet, being fired into his head, where it lodged itself inside of his skull. Surgeons tried effortlessly to remove the bullet, but had no luck. Hargrove recovered from his shot, but not without repercussions. For 30 years, Colonel Hargrove lived with the mini-ball lodged in his skull. This gave Hargrove terrible headaches daily, and eventually, the pain became too much for Hargrove to take. One night, Hargrove closed the door to the library of the mansion, and shot himself in the head. His wife, Cherokee, never recovered from her husband's death, slowly slipping into hysteria until she passed away on May 4th, 1903. After the Great Depression, the mansion became Tuscaloosa's public library. In 1979, the mansion was sold to a local magazine owner and used as a publishing house and a personal office until the late 80s. In 1991, the mansion was deeded to the Jemison Mansion Foundation in an effort to rebuild and restore the home to its former glory. The mansion now operates as a museum and event venue. After Ian gave us the tour of the mansion, as well as its history, we quickly started setting up equipment for the investigation. Currently in the Graaff mansion. About to go put our trap camera down. Unfortunately, from here on out, most of the investigation was filmed on the studio's cameras. One thing we did notice, though, was that one of the mansion's main stories of cameras and electrical equipment being drained of energy were true.
Oh. I didn't know what that noise was, dude. Just rewinding.
Now this battery's going dead.
On the camera?
Yeah, and I just charged this thing yesterday before we even left.
Battery's down?
Yeah, so see it's really low.
Didn't bring a charger?
I got one with me, yeah.
Okay.
Hello!
Hello.
Some very strange things were happening while I was noticing the batteries dying. First, there were several orbs flying around the library, the same library where Hargrove committed suicide. Second, right before I make mention of the batteries dying, a ghostly voice can be heard, seemingly saying what I can only describe as an authentic boo. There's an echo to it, and none of our crew reacts to the voice. Could this have been the spirit of Hargrove, poking fun at us from beyond the grave? I wasn't the only one to experience camera failure that night.
Isn't that the one you were using earlier?
Yeah, it's one I was using for interviews, but it won't record.
Alright, we're here in the Jemison mansion, and one of the claims we heard earlier was that cameras and equipment would stop working. At the moment, Nick's camera isn't even recording at all.
Let me go check so you can get a different tape.
Alright.
There's orbs on this.
What?
Through the night vision. You can see.
While Nick was trying to get his camera to function properly, Rachel and Sean were snapping pictures of the next floor. Rachel had previously been standing there when she felt as though something rushed up behind her. A similar story to her bride-to-be who had experienced the same thing, causing her to fall down the stairs.
That's weird. I don't know if it's just because I already know what he's talking about and I'm thinking of
Here,
it.
let me go up there and see.
Camera just went in and out of focus a lot.
It felt like this, like, Rachel, here. It felt like this, like literally like somebody was like,
As Sean begins to explain what he is feeling, an orb appears on the staircase, seemingly taking the handrail as if it was holding on to the rail, walking down the stairs.
like, Rachel, here. It felt like this, like literally like somebody was like,
While this was happening, Nick was still having no luck with his studio equipment. This was the second camera of his to malfunction within a 5-minute span.
it was like way too mean.
You know, when we first walked into this place, I felt like I was walking into Resident Evil. And then I really thought we were when I saw this. Total umbrella symbol right there. So if we go down to the basement, there's like some zombies or something.
Big nemesis down there.
Stars. We got the studio cameras rolling again, and pretty soon decided to do an isolation session. I decided I would stay in one room in the basement, where stories of a supposed secret tunnel under the mansion had originated. There's the back of Nick's head.
This camera on it.
Alright, sounds good. If you guys want to, you can set that trap camera up facing this way too if you want.
It's over there to the right.
Little did I know as I was shut inside this tiny room what we were about to catch on our audio, or what I was about to hear and see. As the rest of the crew made their way upstairs, everyone decided to go to the lookout tower, except for Sean, who decided to lay down in the library where Hargrove had shot himself.
Heard something over there.
Dude, I just saw a light. That's why I flipped this open to record. There was like, right there, there was like a little,
We're leaving you completely alone down here.
there was like a little floaty light.
Sounds good. I think I'll be alright.
But it could have came from outside that window. If Mr. Hargrove is here, could you please talk to me? They say that you killed yourself right here, in this very spot. Is this where you died? Did you kill yourself in this room? If you're here with me, can you make a noise? Can you walk in front of the window in the other room? Are you here with us tonight? Kevin's alone in the basement where the refrigerator used to be that you kept ice in. Can you make a sound for him or make your presence known to him?
Sean wasn't aware that his question was about to give us some incredible evidence.
Coming up.
I don't know, it's weird. Like my throat like dried up.
Yeah.
Like something just maybe approached you? Or that might offend you. If that offends you, this being here, can you maybe slide it off the table? While Rachel, Kayla, and Nick explored the top floor of the mansion, Sean was on the main floor, asking for something to give us a sign. As I sat in isolation in the room in the basement, I suddenly had the feeling that I wasn't alone. I had only been downstairs for about 10 minutes when I suddenly heard heavy footsteps stomping down the stairs just outside. After a moment, I expected one of the crew to open up the door, but after radioing them, I learned that no one had just walked downstairs. My audio recorder caught these phantom footsteps.
Is anybody downstairs with me at this moment?
After a long pause, I suddenly began to see a shadow moving through the holes in the door. This was followed by footsteps, and the sounds of something trying to open up the door from the outside. After the shadow moved away from the door, and the sounds of footsteps disappeared, my audio recorder caught a voice in the room with me. Listen closely. It sounds like it says, "Thanks for that." As soon as the voice is ending, I begin asking questions.
Just feel free to talk into this device.
After a few more minutes, I exited the room, telling the others what I had just experienced. Ian overheard our tales and decided to join us for the investigation. While all the guys were exploring the second floor, Rachel and Kayla were sitting in one of the offices on the first floor. It was here that the door to the office suddenly opened on them. They witnessed the doorknob twist and the door pop open. We quickly put a studio camera on it while Sean filmed with his personal camera through a pair of night vision goggles. Cue the horrible quality. While we didn't catch the door opening on Sean's camera, it did pop open for the studio camera. We decided to take turns in the office alone. Things got very interesting when Ian decided to sit inside the room alone, reading a personal journal of someone who used to live in the mansion many years ago. The first EVP he caught was what sounded like someone gasping into the microphone. When Ian goes to talk, you can tell he's farther away from the audio recorder. He doesn't recall hearing this sound while sitting there alone in the room.
Do you have anything to say, or?
The next one was one of the most impressive things caught on our audio. One of the more famous stories of the mansion is the sound of a china cabinet crashing to the floor. While we didn't catch this specifically, something crashed in the room with Ian.
I can hear that. I don't know what it was. Is that anything with this machine noise? That sounded like a coin.
Several more things happened in the mansion that night, including phantom footsteps, a note being played on the piano, 2 cats fighting in the street scaring the crap out of Sean and Nick, as well as the office door opening again. We loaded back up late that night, eager to get home and head to the studio later that month to go over the footage. Footage that we would never get the chance to see. Before we were told about our show being pulled from the studio, we made our way down to Marion, Alabama, ready to film what would have been episode 2, filmed at a location I had read about for years, Kenworthy Hall. Also referred to as Carlisle Hall, Kenworthy was built in 1859 for Edward Kenworthy Carlisle. Edward and his family lived in the house until 1873, when Edward passed away. His wife, Lucy, remained in the house until 1899, when she left it to their daughter, Augusta Jones. Very little is documented about the residents who have owned Kenworthy Hall since its construction. Very little remodeling or additions have been done to the home, leaving most everything original. At one point during the Civil War, one of the rooms in the mansion was used as a makeshift hospital. Visitors have claimed to see the spirit of a Civil War soldier on the property. One of the more famous ghost stories surrounding the mansion is the tale of a woman waiting for her lover to return from the war. Supposedly he had told her that if he died in battle, one of his men would ride up to Kenworthy Hall, waving a red flag. One morning, while reading a book in the lookout tower, she glanced out of one of the windows, spotting a horseman, waving the red flag, signaling her lover's demise. Reportedly, the thought of her lover's death was too much to handle, so she rushed down to the stairs of the lookout tower, plummeting over the railing, and falling to her own death on the hardwood floor below. We were very excited to get the opportunity to investigate and stay the night in this historic haunted location. Unfortunately, this episode was filmed heavily on the studio's cameras, leaving us with very few personal clips to salvage. Just wandering the halls and exploring the century-old attic, you could feel a heavy presence there. You never truly felt alone in the house, no matter where you went. Similar to the Jemison, Kenworthy Hall wasn't without its stories of secret tunnels on the property as well, supposedly in the old well located on the property. At the time, caretaker of the mansion, Dawn Archambault, gave us the initial walkthrough of the house, telling us about things her and other visitors have experienced there, including the sounds of heavy footsteps, pacing back and forth in the hallway during the night while she slept. Something Kayla and I actually experienced later that night when we stayed there. Even before we finished the initial walkthrough of the mansion, Sean experienced something strange downstairs.
Poking down on it.
I'll say that again.
Just got a weird pain in my shoulder right here. Feels like somebody just took their finger and started pushing down on it. Right when I walked through the door, it was just like bam. I think it may like that.
Little did Sean or Nick know exactly what would end up happening to them later that night during our stay.
Coming up.
And it's still one of the creepiest dolls I've ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
What the?
Thank you. The door just opened.
Thank you. I've got it on this end. Good.
Night was quickly falling over Kenworthy Hall as we prepared for our investigation. While Nick ran the studio cameras, I walked around with my own personal camcorder. It was here that I found Nick, looking pale and as though he had just seen a ghost.
Man, that's weird. Like my throat dried up. Yeah.
Like something just maybe approached you? Or
I don't know, I just felt like the air was
sucked into my throat and like all my fluids pretty much because I'm dying of thirst right now.
Not recording. You're scared.
They gotta get a drink. We have waters.
They got all kind of stuff down there.
Yeah, that cool.
I'm really having a fit.
Cat's having a fit.
I'll walk over there in case you go.
Just to let y'all know, I put my phone in that.
Yeah.
Okay. After Nick's experience, I set off on my own to explore the mansion. I feel like I continue getting pulled towards this area. If there's anybody in here with me tonight, can you give me a sign of your presence? Can you make a sound? Can you move something for me? After asking for a sign, the flashlight I had mounted to my camera suddenly flickered, despite having fresh batteries. Can you make a sound? Can you move something for me? What the? While I was exploring alone, Kayla had left her phone recording audio. When she listened back to it, she caught something she wasn't expecting to hear. We've heard you like to leave pennies in random places. Can you leave me some pennies right here? I'll be back to check on them later.
Right to it and goes,
Oh, hey, Kevin.
What happened?
Kayla got an EVP.
she got an EVP when she left that in the room.
Yeah.
She walks out,
Oh,
shuts
did you
the door.
hear that?
Can we see it?
That
You can hear it.
You can hear it.
I
noise.
thought I heard something back that way.
Where'd Nick go?
Whoa.
What's up?
Stop it.
Whoa.
Zanny.
What's up?
Dude, she already
I heard that thing again. That, like you said, when you said I heard it back here, I heard it again. It sounded like it came from up here.
I heard that. Listen, Nick, this is great. I'm scared.
Unfortunately, the first sigh was too low to be caught on my camera's audio. However, the second, even worse one was caught clearly.
Not us.
You hear it?
Ooh, wow.
Let me hear it.
It's like, ooh.
It's like something gets in there and goes.
It's like right against the freaking thing too.
That's pretty clear.
And I was letting Sean and Jonathan listen to it, and they heard some other stuff after that too. Oh my gosh, that was even worse.
After the sigh, my flashlight once again flicks off and on.
Sean and Jonathan listened to it, and they heard some other stuff after that too. Oh my gosh, that was even worse.
Nick and I made our way up to the attic, stopping off momentarily in the room that was used as a makeshift hospital during the Civil War. What? I am not even sure. What is that?
Come on up here, my friend.
Hey Kevin, why don't you go first?
I don't want to be in the back.
I'm not too sure what that light could be, though, for real.
I guess there's a light on that mirror, vanity mirror.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's just George Washington lamp.
Fancy. Set this up here and make sure that we've got good connection.
And it's still one of the creepiest dolls I've ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And she wants to give me a high five.
We didn't know it was broken. We came up here and saw it.
Yeah, her neck's broken. Sean and Nick decided to hang out in the attic for a while. Unfortunately, at this point, I took control of one of the studio cameras and made my way back down to the main floor. Who is this guy? Little rat over there. After hearing and catching some of the ghostly footsteps downstairs on the studio's camera, I made my way back up to Sean and Nick to inform them that I was going to go to the lookout tower, while Jonathan waved a red flag in the yard, hoping to get a response from the lady who took her own life. Howdy, y'all.
Man, there's a rat up here. There's a mouse went scurrying across there. All you could hear was...
It sounded like somebody went running across there.
I started recording as I laid down on the couch in the tower, unaware of what I was about to see with my very own eyes. This is Kevin. I'm currently in the lookout tower where Anne used to stay. I'm alone up here right now doing an isolation session. And I have the spirit box going. I'm gonna see if anything happens. Anne, did you used to sit up here? Is this your favorite room in the house? Okay, I just heard somebody towards the staircase. There's a chair across the room from me. And it looks like somebody is sitting there. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. What the crap? Okay, can't really see it too well. This light sucks. There's a chair here, and it definitely looked like somebody was just sitting there, and when I went to move to see better, it looked like they got up and just disappeared. I moved the camera to the windowsill opposite of the couch as I waited for Jonathan to radio in. Radio silence, come on back in. I'm still sitting here. I thought I heard something when that happened, but I'm just sitting here. What? Keep breaking in and out. What did you say? Yeah, I can hear you. After about 10 minutes of radio silence, I realized I hadn't heard from Sean or Nick in a while. Jonathan was still outside waving the red flag. After questioning where Sean and Nick were, my camera's audio captures a voice that doesn't seem to come from the spirit box. Listen closely, and you can hear what sounds like a man saying, "Help."
Has anyone seen Sean or Nick?
I have not. You want me to check the house?
Yeah, that's I forgot they're going up there. Yeah, never mind. They probably have Nick's camera. Never mind.
Alright.
Could this have been one of the soldiers, treated here during the Civil War? After my isolation, I found Sean and Nick. They had found a Union and Confederate soldier hat and were doing their own form of reenactment of the Civil War in the room that was used as a hospital. After they exited the room, both of them became physically and noticeably very sick. Both of them ended up packing up and heading home soon after, unable to stay the night due to their sudden sickness. Things fell relatively quiet in the house for the rest of the night, save for the sounds of phantom footsteps in the hallway as the rest of us tried to sleep. It was only a few weeks after filming this episode that I got the call from Nick. The studio we were working with ultimately decided that our series didn't fit with the standard programming. So for all intents and purposes, our tapes were permanently shelved and the Paranormal Project was laid to rest before it even got off the ground. I was heartbroken, my dreams shattered. I started debating on shooting my own web series, or a paranormal podcast, even getting the band back together. I even debated on trying my hand at exploring myths and legends in Alabama, including what many people refer to as the Sipsey Creature. It was during this thought process that I remembered the wise words of the Travel Channel's Josh Gates.
Hey, this is Josh Gates and Kevin Walden. You are a terrible monster hunter.
Another shattered dream. Several years went by before I got a call from Nick. Turns out he had transferred to a studio in Coleman that he had complete control over, and asked if I would be interested in bringing back the Paranormal Project. We ultimately decided to rename the show, focusing more on the strange tales of ghostly sights in our home state of Alabama, and thus, Alabama's Most Haunted was born. We filmed our first 2 episodes at the Drish Mansion, eventually working our way back over to the Jemison Van de Graaff Mansion. It was here that Kayla found out that we weren't exactly the best cheerleaders.
Where's that donut place?
So what's our Alabama's Most Haunted cheer? That's not it. Give me an A.
A.
Give me an M.
M.
Give me an H.
H.
What does that spell? Y'all are the worst cheerleaders ever.
Oh, there goes.
Eager to give the Jemison a proper episode of our new series, we made our way inside, meeting up with one of the mansion's employees, Jesse Brock, as he shared the history of the mansion and told us some of the strange things that have happened there.
We have offices upstairs, which we can go up there in a few minutes. But one night, Dale, who is a local photographer, and like I said, his office is upstairs. He was up there, and Ian was down here, and Ian Crawford, our executive director, he was down here in his office here, and they both heard music playing at the same time, and they ran up, like met each other, like, hey, did you hear that song? And they're both like, yes. They went outside, and there was no music. I mean, there weren't any cars going by with loud music going. I mean, it was a very 19th century style song that they heard, and I can't remember. They knew what song it was. I can't remember. Ian knew the title of the song, and I can't remember the title. But yeah, so the Jemisons did. They hosted a lot of people in this house. They had a lot of music playing during the 1860s, 1870s. There's a piano here that is the exact same style that the Jemisons had, same model that the Jemisons had in this house when they lived here in the 1860s. So maybe Mr. Jemison or his wife jumped on the piano and maybe played, but it was very, Ian and Dale both heard music that night.
After filming the tour with Jesse, we waited for nightfall. We were also joined by Magic 96.5's Hillary Mills and Ellen LaFell for this investigation.
When we say hey, you should follow.
Oh yeah, they have a theme song for us.
You should follow me while
Do you want us to sing our theme song?
Yes, theme song, go.
Alabama's most haunted. Live at the Jemison Mansion.
Once the lights were out and the night vision cameras were on, we started experiencing some of the equipment failure, similar to Nick's camera dying during our first investigation.
Say that again. My camera died when I was recording in there after I had it charged. Let's see if it'll come back on. It might have been the night vision going out, but it died. Yeah, back at 2 batteries now, and in there it died completely.
It completely died?
Yeah, now it's back on.
I bet you the spirit was about to manifest.
Yeah, also my light was freaking out, like it was like blinking a little bit, so I don't know. Back in there. Have you seen the red flashlight I have? No.
Rachel and Kayla made their way to the freezer room where I had experienced so many strange things before. They caught several orbs during their stay in the room.
Alright, it is 8:33. We are in the basement and we are continuing our session in the tunnel room. There's Rachel. Kevin got a lot of activity in this room last time we were here, and we are getting a bunch of orbs and tapping noises. It's behind me.
While Kayla and Rachel investigated downstairs, Hillary, Ellen, and I set up a prop gun at the official desk where Hargrove shot himself, hoping it would trigger some kind of response.
We can't take him anywhere.
As soon as I asked if Hargrove was with us, my camera audio picked up a strange voice, not once, but twice.
Hargrove, if you're here with us tonight. Hargrove, if you're here with us tonight. We have a toy gun here. And that might offend you. If that offends you, this being here, can you maybe slide it off the table? There's also a flashlight here. If you could make it flicker on and off.
How did it feel to live 30 years with a bullet in your head? How did it feel to live 30 years with a bullet in your head? Can you move the gun, please? Rachel and Kayla made their way to the dining room, hoping to get some kind of reaction from Cherokee or Priscilla with the spirit box.
That's the one that John Hicks said in this room he saw the end of a dress, and he had never been here before. When he walked in this room, he saw that color dress.
Yeah.
It was in this room where their camera's audio picked up several voices. Voices that they didn't hear and that didn't come through the spirit box.
If there is anyone in this room with us, can you please communicate with us on the spirit box? Hello? Can you say hello?
Is there anyone in the room with us tonight?
Can you tell us how many people are in this room? We're not really hearing anything on the spirit box right now.
During this time, Hillary, Ellen, and I had made our way down to the basement room. I was about to be really dumb and like jump up onto this.
Not the best idea.
He was here 1 second. Let's see what's going on. Are you here with us tonight? We've had some pretty weird things going on. Doors opening, sounds, lights flickering. Anyway, you could do some more of that. Maybe give us some orbs or something. Just had one fly into the door there. Can you make this flashlight flicker? Can you make a noise somewhere for us down here? It doesn't have to be in this room. It can be on the staircase or in another room, just anywhere down here to where we can hear it. That's the tapping sound they were talking about. If that's you, can you do that some more? Save for a few orbs and random tapping sounds, things were relatively quiet in the basement. We joined up with everyone upstairs. Sean, Jonathan, and I snagged the spirit box and went our own way while Kayla, Rachel, Hillary, and Ellen made their way to the office where the door had opened before.
When we were here before, you moved the door for us. You rattled the doorknob and opened it. Can you do that for us again? Hello?
Are you in this dining room with us right now? Can you tell us your name?
Oh, Tom's here.
Huh?
Tom's here.
You're still alive. We're doing some spirit box session here.
Anything going on yet?
We had someone say hello, and then something said, and this is where ghosts come to take a bath.
Ghost bath.
Ghost bath. Did you used to bathe in this bathtub? Yes.
Yes, too.
Yes, and yes.
Yes, again. Did you go sit on this bench while you were waiting? Did you hear that squeaking noise? I think that was a kid.
Yeah.
Did you hear that squeaking noise there?
Cherokee, was that you? Here?
Are you in here with us?
There's a little girl.
If you're in here with us, push this door. Can you knock on the door? After you've done it?
How many people are in this room right now? 4?
Close.
And this is the part where
While we were catching voices on the spirit box, the girls were busy experiencing something very strange inside the office. Something all too familiar.
Did that flashlight flicker?
Yeah, the flashlight flickers.
Is it mine or yours?
This one on the table is flickering. It was earlier, but
Has that ball moved yet? Thank you. Thank you.
it did.
The door just opened.
Thank you. I've got it on this end. Good. Wow, that was amazing. Thank you.
Can you open it some more? I thought the guys did that.
I thought there was a guy, like someone.
Yeah, I thought they were coming in.
It was weird. It sounded like footsteps walking outside, and then it opened a little bit later.
The door creaks open as Kayla is filming towards Rachel. Kayla quickly pulls the door to, focusing her camera on the door.
I'll go get that plug real quick in my hallway. Plug it up.
You could just use your flashlight, like I'm doing. Like hold it with the camera.
Well, yeah.
Because it's working for me.
Let's see. Mine's.
Okay, it is shut. It's shut. Would you mind opening the door again? Thank you. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you rattle the doorknob?
After Kayla asked if we can rattle the doorknob, an orb flies into the doorway. Could this have been something leaving?
Would you mind opening the door again? Thank you. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you rattle the doorknob?
As we were getting ready to wrap up for the night, one of the cameras started acting up. This is a continuous shot that appears to split into pieces. We're not sure if this was simple camera malfunction or one of the many spirits rumored to haunt Jemison and the Graaff mansion. Finally, the day came that our first episode aired in Coleman County. The following week, we were on the road to our next location, the Spring Villa Mansion. It was here where we got the call from Nick. He was leaving the studio to pursue his dream of law enforcement. This meant that once again, we were without a studio. While this weighed heavily on me during our investigation that night, I began to realize that maybe it was a blessing in disguise. No deadlines to meet, I could edit episodes at my own pace and make sure they were put together the way I had intended. I could also release episodes on our YouTube channel and reach a much broader audience, and honestly, I think it was the right move all around. My crew and I have an amazing bond, and we're glad for everyone who gets to watch and join our adventures with us. We experienced many strange things during our investigations of both the Jemison Van de Graaff mansion and Kenworthy Hall. And while all the evidence caught on the studio cameras never got to see the light of day, the experiences are something that will forever be burned into my memories. While these locations started off as the Paranormal Project, they will always be a part.
Just got a weird pain in my shoulder right here. Feels like somebody just like took their finger and started pushing down on it.
Would you mind opening the door again? Thank you.
Of Alabama's most haunted.
Breath.
I don't know.
I'm just gonna
breath
get a
got
pair of
taken out.
shoes in
Something
there.
like sucked out or something.
Is it okay if I get a pair of shoes in there?
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead.
It adds to the scene. Need a pair of shoes. Man, I don't know, it's weird. Like